Hi, welcome to the fourth and final free sales course brought to you by ProdataKey, How to Close. Let's go over a quick recap of our previous course, Product Knowledge and Demoing Effectively. We covered why is product knowledge essential? Where does confidence come from? Why is confidence important? What is a demo? What are we demonstrating? Review the keys of building trust, and we went over conducting a webinar. For a more in-depth view of what we covered in our last sales training, it's all available under ProdataKey's account on YouTube. My name is Dallan Labrum. I'm the Director of Sales for ProdataKey. I have 15 years of sales training and sales success experience. I've won several awards in both sales training and in a sales role. And I've been introducing concepts and explaining my process throughout these free sales training courses that has led to the successes that I've experienced and the confidence that I've been able to build over the last 15 years, and wanted to share that with you. When we started this sales course, our initial goal was to simply add value to the industry. We wanted to find a way where we could, without cost to you, give you things that would be valuable to your business and help you remain steady, help you make sales where maybe you wouldn't have during this pandemic. Any way that we could add value, we wanted to do that. And that is where these sales courses came from. So I hope that you have found them valuable. So let's go over a few things. This is a live course. So again, we've been doing all of these live with no edits. So please forgive me if I misspeak or use improper language or what. I promise not to use improper language. Questions are encouraged, and we'll have a live Q&A at the end. The goal of these courses, especially the sales side, is to help you sell your product so that you can implement the skills that we're showing here so that you can gain more confidence and close more deals. So let's go over a few general sales tips. These have been at the beginning of every single one of our sales trainings. And the reason is because, to be honest with you, I took a 2-day course that I used to teach and broke it down into 4 small courses that are under an hour. It's really hard to do that and to not be scattered and leave things completely open. So I wanted to review some of the things that I thought were very important and make sure they were emphasized at the beginning of every course. Number 1 is start positive and stay positive. Okay? Sales interactions have a 25% better chance of closing when you start positive and you stay positive. That means you're speaking positively about your product. Okay? We're not introducing negatives. This doesn't mean be dishonest, okay? This just means you don't walk into a sales interaction and lead with all the things that your product or company can't do, right? We focus on the things that we can do, the things that our products can do, the solutions that we have, okay? And again, do not speak negatively about your competition, because I promise you, and it has been proven scientifically, you will leave that interaction and your customer will think those same things about you. They will associate those same negative feelings with your company. Speak positively about you and your company and your product. Use positive adjectives to describe your customer, you, your product. Use body language. Body language can increase your close rate by 50%. Positive body language. The thing about communication is it's very difficult, okay? In a good communicative interaction, you have about 65 to 75% communication. That means what you perceive and what you intend are happening at a 75% rate. It's being filtered out. 25% at the best is being lost between your communication. So body language is crucial to getting your point across, to helping your customers understand what you're trying to say and what you're trying to communicate. And end on a high note. This means even if you stumbled through, even if you know, man, I'm trying to implement all of these sales skills that I've been learning over the last few months and I just stumbled through the entire process, still end on a high note. Be positive. It has been proven that if you end on a high note, it can actually change the way that the whole interaction was perceived by your customer. Always end on a high note. So let's go into today's course. What is a close? We're going to talk about how to close, but what is a close and how is it accomplished? We're going to be talking about overcoming fear and how it's crucial to closing. Don't wait till the end to start closing, and remember the reasons customers say no. It's very important to understand the main reasons why customers say no, because if you can overcome those before you go into a sales interaction, you're going to be that much further ahead. So let's talk a little bit about value-based closing, which is the type of closing that I prefer and would recommend, versus traditional closing. Now, I watched a movie the other day where a lady drove onto a car lot and she wanted to buy a car. The salesperson took her keys and threw them on the roof of the building. Now, that is a good example of traditional closing, high pressure closing. Hey, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to help you here, but you're not leaving without buying a new car for me, right? That's the idea of traditional closing. Value-based closing is different. So let's talk a little bit about it. Value-based closing uses information, discovery questions, and benefit statements. Traditional closing or high-pressured sales is what salespeople do when they have an inferior product, inferior skills, or they lack the confidence and ability to build trust and show value. Value-based closing isn't pushy, it's helpful. So your customer should not feel pushed into a corner or should not feel pressured to buy your product. Instead, it should be the obvious answer to their solution. They should feel at the end of an interaction that you helped them, not pushed them. Value-based closing is not high pressure. It's a process that starts at the very first interaction and grows to an obvious outcome of them purchasing your product or going with your company if you do this correctly. Now, something to consider, a good salesman uses great processes and tremendous care. Before we go into anything, I just need you to understand, and we'll touch on this again, none of the things that I taught will matter at all if you don't care about the company and the person sitting across from you or next to you. If you don't truly care about their success and what happens to them, it will come across. And the person that is able to communicate that they care oftentimes will be the one that walks away with the business. You will not see a great salesperson pushing a product that isn't a good fit. They won't use fear or pressure. So it's really important to understand that. The goal is to ask good questions, find out what's important, find out what their needs and wants are, and what the state of their company is, and then sell to that and to build on that. So let's go on. What is a close? There's been a lot of misunderstanding about what a close actually is. A close is when your customer has decided that you, your company, your product and service bring them the most value and they are willing to invest in that decision. That's the key, okay? When you've done a proper job from beginning to end in your sales process, it will be an obvious solution at the end. They will choose your company and you and your product and service. So what is closing? So a close, which is the noun, is what we talked about before. Closing is the verb. Closing is assisting your customer to come to the agreement that you, your company, your product and service meet their needs and or wants and are valuable to them and are tied directly to the thing that is most important to them or things. So it's very important to understand that if you find out whatever it is, security is the most important thing to them. Ease of use is the most important thing to them. The funny thing is, studies have shown almost nobody really says cost is the most important thing to them with a product. Yet, in most sales interactions, when you get to the end, cost is the thing talked about the most. The reason is because we went over the value equation. Value equals your customer's appraisal of your product minus the cost. And if cost comes up, that means we did not build value and show value enough in our product, service, and company that makes sense for them to spend what we're asking them to spend. The value is not there. So let's talk about overcoming objections. So almost all the time at the end of a sales interaction, unless we perfectly executed and asked every good question, there may be some objections. So what is an objection? An objection is anything standing in the way of your customer saying yes to you. So at the end of an interaction, when you ask for their business and they say, well, I'm not sure yet. I want to look at a couple other options. Anything. Well, why do they want to look at a couple other options? The reason is your company, your product, is not the obvious choice for them. Somewhere in the interaction, we missed something that was very important to them. We did not do a good job of asking a question. We didn't necessarily tie our product's features to what's most important to them, turning them into benefits. And so when you think of it that way, it's very, very important to ask good questions and to follow the process from the very beginning up to the end, so that when we get there, we can either refer back to when we already went over that, whatever their objection is, or we can ask good questions at the end. Identify and asking questions so that you can fully understand the objection is very important. And why is one of the most powerful questions you can ask. Listen, I wanna get into a second opinion. Do you mind if I ask why? Well, it's the smart thing to do. Maybe that's what they'll say. Or maybe they'll say, well, you didn't really answer my question about this. Or I'm not really so sure that you're able to do this. And when you ask why, they will tell you. Why is an open-ended question. And then you get a second chance to close. So let's talk a little bit about fear. Fear is one of the biggest things that stop people from closing. Now, fear comes in a few different ways, and we'll talk about those. So fear of rejection. I don't care who you are, everybody has this. Even if they claim they don't, everybody has that little fear of rejection, okay? It's there. Nobody likes it. It is not fun when somebody tells you, hey, I'm not interested in you, your product, your company. It feels bad, okay? So we have that fear. And we get that fear when we have not sufficiently built or shown value, right? It's scary. We don't know what their answer is going to be when we ask for their business if we haven't done a good enough job asking questions and showing the features and benefits of our product and tying them to what's most important. When we have not shown and communicated the benefits, it's scary, right? We know at the end of an interaction, man, I spent this last 45 minutes doing something, but why do I have this fear in my stomach? And it's because we haven't done that. When we haven't built enough trust, right? It's hard to ask somebody that you know doesn't trust you to trust you. And so, or that you don't trust them, or you haven't spent the time building the value or showing the trust. And it's scary asking for business we feel we haven't earned, right? You know at the end of an interaction, if you've done a great job, you know you can feel throughout if trust is being built, if value is being shown. This is not anything that's going to be foreign to you. So at the end, if you know that you haven't done a good job of doing those things, it's going to be uncomfortable asking for their business. That being said, do it anyway. One of the biggest mistakes that I have seen is people getting that fear at the end. They know they didn't do a good job, and they're like, well, I'll be in touch, and they walk away. Or let me know what you decide. Ask for their business. You never know. Maybe you did do a good enough job. Maybe you're afraid and your fear is the only thing holding you back. I have seen this, and I don't have any statistical data, but I know that I have stumbled through sales interactions, and at the end, I've been like, listen, I maybe don't have the product knowledge that I need to. Maybe I'm new to the product, whatever it is, but I know that nobody will add value to you or work harder for you than I will. Can we do this today? Can we close this today? Can I have your business? However you want to offer it. I've seen some pretty miraculous closings that happen. So remember, that fear of rejection is going to be there, and it's always best to have an amazing interaction and to practice, but still ask for that business at the end. Another thing is, we don't know what's most important to our customer, right? So when we don't know what's most important, it's like we're playing darts with features, right? We're throwing these darts, throwing these features at them, hoping one is important to them. When we don't know what's important to them, that adds that fear, right? When we don't know what's important to our customers, it's very difficult, if not impossible, to express a benefit of our product, let alone close them. So keep that in mind. And then the last one is, can I clearly differentiate their needs and their wants? We talked about this in depth in one of my previous courses. Which one's more important, needs or wants? It depends, right? A flourishing company, a company that has plenty of cash flow or is in a good position, to be honest with you, their wants are going to be more important than their needs. A company that may be a startup that has limited cash and really is kind of tied up and maybe hasn't had a ton of success, their needs are going to be the most important thing. And that goes from just a single person all the way up to a business. That stays true. Psychologists have proven that our needs become more important the less successful we are, and our wants become more successful, or our wants become more valuable the more successful we become. So it's really important to understand the state of the company when we're trying to decide what's most important between their needs and their wants and differentiating. So let's talk about when should I be closing? This is a question that I get from everybody, right? They're like, do I wait till the very end? And you've heard the term always be closing. I agree with this, but not in the traditional sense, right? We talked about pressure. In this day and age, and I think arguably it could be retroactive, pressure closing doesn't lead to trust, and it doesn't lead to customers staying with you long term. It just doesn't. They may buy the product from you, but they will not buy again. That's almost guaranteed. So when I say always be closing, to me, this phrase means finding out what is most important to your customer and turning features into benefits by showing how the features meet their needs, right? So you can start off with a close. I love to do this in my purpose statement. And we talked about purpose statement in one of our previous courses. The purpose statement is a great opportunity to transition from a social get-to-know-you type conversation into the nitty-gritty of the business. Within your purpose statement, you should explain your intent, what you intend to do, why you're there, take away that fear, and let them know right away, hey, I plan on earning your business in this. And so I'm going to be asking you some questions and really trying to find out what the most important thing is to you so that I can make sure that I set you up with the exact right process, package, or whatever it is. Closing throughout. This is super important, right? Get commitments throughout the entire process. Ask good questions through the whole interaction. This will increase your likelihood of an obvious close at the end. So every time a feature becomes a benefit to them, close them simply by saying, so this is something that is crucial to your company. Excellent. And then move on. Tie them together. Tie the features to what's most important. That's what turns a feature into a benefit. And then the final close. The final close is when you have followed the process and you get a firm commitment. Both you and your customer know your company, your product and service is right for them. Okay? It shouldn't be confusing. There shouldn't be hesitation. The final close, it should be obvious. And so as we practice finding, making sure that right now, off the top of my head, I have 10 really good quality discovery questions that I can fall back on those days where maybe I'm not on the top of my game, or if an interaction is interrupted, or if it's not going as smoothly as it needs to. If right now you can't write down 10 really good discovery questions, that's a great telltale sign that we have a pretty good amount of work to do and practice to do in our sales techniques. It's like being able to hit 8 out of 10 free throws, right? If you can't right now write down 10 excellent discovery questions, we have some work to do. So that's a great way for you, without telling anybody else, where you're at sales-wise and knowing what kind of growth you have to have. So let's go over starting with a close. We talked about that a little bit. I like to do it within the purpose statement. Now, a good purpose statement may sound like this. Hey, Frank, it's been really good getting to know you. I'm really glad you're a Dodgers fan. The reason why I came here today is because you had requested cameras or access control or whatever it is, low voltage. My goal here today is to find out what is most important to you, to find out what solutions will help your company the best, and then by the end, hopefully come to a conclusion and earn your business. Is that all right with you? So, that was just off the top of my head, but what I did there is I explained my purpose, I let him know that I plan on getting his business, and then I asked for permission. As soon as he gives me permission, inside of his head, he just trusted me a little bit more. He tied me to the trust receptors in his brain. And so he just gave me permission to close him. That's a much different experience than if you just go in on a hard close at the end with no permission. You'll find that your close rate will increase significantly when you get permission to close them. So closing throughout, getting commitments. A good question to ask is, if I were to be able to offer you a product that has what you were just asking for, would that be important to you? I know it sounds pretty basic, but getting them to answer obvious questions about your product will lead to that obvious close. So you can go back and say, hey, as we were discussing this, you said that having 4K cameras is something that's very important to your business because with your previous camera system, you were unable to identify somebody who stole stuff from you. Our product has that, and you said that if that was important to you, that would be a product that you would want to get. Is that still correct? And just verifying that, continuously getting commitments throughout the entire process will tremendously increase the easy close at the end. And then the final close, sealing the deal. Remember, we talked a little bit about maybe having a bad interaction, maybe fumbling through the sales process. Maybe you're a new salesman, maybe you're a salesman that's really looking to improve his game, and you're starting to implement these things that you're learning, and you know you had a bad process or you had a bad experience. Still ask for that business at the end. I would say out of everything, the worst mistake you could make is not asking for business at the end. Because I think Michael Jordan said this, you miss 100% of shots you don't take. Well, give them an opportunity to say yes to you, and then you can build trust and earn their business through your process. That being said, it is always better to follow a good process, ask good questions, find out what's most important to them, and tie the features of your product to what is most important to them. All right, let's move on to the next one. Here's some things to consider. Now, none of this that we talked about matters at all if you don't care about your customer. Okay, I've got some pretty good feedback throughout these courses. A lot of people have reached out to me, and they've given me some feedback about caring. I agree with everyone who has reached out to me, and I will be the first one to tell you, if you don't care about them, they will know. It will show. They can feel it. And so empathy, caring for your customer, changing the dynamic from your customer and their problem versus you to you and the customer versus the problem is huge and will tremendously increase your ability to close. When you care, you are driven to learn and ask the best questions. This is something that's interesting. So I can tell how much a salesman cares and how much they don't by how much effort they put into the craft. Okay? So if you are just resting on your laurels, if you're just an awesome person and people love being around you and you can't explain your process, I'm telling you right now, you can stick with the success that you're having and do great. Or you can improve on that and literally become one of the best salespeople ever. Very few people do it. One of my favorite quotes is, if being great were easy, then everyone would do it. Being great is not easy. It's difficult. And you will set yourself apart by following this process. When your customers feel you care about them, they're 46% more likely to use your product and service. So ask yourself, could I use 46% more business? I could. I don't think there's a business out there that would turn that down. And so learning how to care, it's kind of hard to learn how to care, but one of the easiest ways to do it is try to put yourself in their shoes. Put yourself through their experiences. Try to understand from their point of view. Be like, hey, this is what our budget is and this is what we need, and just kind of try to flip the table and imagine you were the business owner or you were the manager trying to find this solution. That is something that has tremendously helped me have more empathy for my customers. And when you do have empathy for them, they can feel it and they will trust you much more. And then that leads us right into trust. It's 3 times easier for a customer to trust you when they feel you care about them. Now let me read that one more time. It's 3 times easier for a customer to trust you when they feel you care about them. So the word feel is completely subjective, right? Each person has a different experiences in life. They've gone through different things. The goal is to make them feel like you care about them. And how do you do that? You have to get to know who they are. You have to find out what's most important to them. And then they have to feel that you care about them. And I promise you, having a more polished, effective sales approach, using their time more efficiently, is a great way to show someone that you care about them. You guys, I really appreciate all of your time that you have given ProdataKey throughout these sales trainings. This has been something that has been really fun to do. It's really exciting to be able to offer these courses for free. This is something, what I've broken down here into 4 small courses has initially been a 2 to 3 day, 8 hours a day course that I used to do in the automotive industry that is extremely expensive, and when implemented, extremely valuable and worth it. Every single dealership that I went to that had 1 or 2 salespeople that implemented this saw incredible increase in sales and closure, and in the rating that those customers gave the company. So not only are they increasing their sales, but the people that are buying from them are much more satisfied and happy and likely to come back. And that is key to growing a business, is having customers refer you to other customers, right? And for them to come back to you as well. And so this process that we've gone over from beginning to end, that was my goal, is to help you close more deals, retain more customers, and grow your businesses. We got a few upcoming courses. We have Wire and Wiring. That's tomorrow, May 27th at 10 a.m. What a tremendous value that is, right? If you've got some new installers or even some experienced installers that want to learn from one of the most creative people in the industry, it's a great opportunity. And then we have our PDK sales certification. If you guys are interested in learning more about direct sales with ProdataKey, how to sell that product, we offer that to everybody, and that is also free, our sales certification. I appreciate your time. Let's go to the Q&A, and let's see if we have any questions. Sometimes it takes a minute for them to jump in. Oh, we got a few right here. If we have a customer who's hung up on price, and price is most important to them, how do we deal with them? This is a question I have gotten a ton over the years. So there seems to be two schools of thought. Either your product is truly overpriced, which is potentially the case, right? But if you're having success in other areas with that same price model, it probably isn't the cost, right? We talked about the value equation. Value equals the customer's appraisal minus the cost. So they're obviously not seeing the value. They don't think your product is worth what you're asking. And so this can give you an opportunity to go through and review the features of your product and find out what's most important to that customer. Because I promise you, if you know what's most important to them and you know exactly what they're looking for and you're knowledgeable about your product and other products in the industry, you're going to be able to gain their trust and walk them through and let them know, hey, this is what the average industry cost is per door or what per camera or whatever it is, and guide them through the process and help them understand where they're at. I'd say that is the best way of dealing with people. If they're coming at you, if you hear this a lot, if price is always the issue, well, there's two issues there, right? Either your salespeople aren't adding value, and if it comes down to price and you're constantly having to discount, that could be it, or you may be overpriced, right? I would say 90% of the time, it's the first one. We're not doing a good enough job building trust and showing value. Maybe 10% of the time it's cost, right? You know what the market's doing. You're trying to match the market or even be a little more competitive than the market. So keep that in mind. What if I'm selling against a similar product and company? This is a great question. So you know that maybe you have a company that you're up against that has similar values to you. Maybe they even offer the same product and you're bidding on the same project. How do you win that? Well, I promise you, the chances of that other company following the process that I've laid out in these courses is pretty low. Because remember, if being great were easy, everyone would do it, right? The chances, if everybody was following this process, they would have huge close rates and the market would be much more competitive than it is. And so if you're selling against a similar product and company, there's something that you need to keep in mind. Selling yourself and building trust is going to be way more important if you have this knowledge, right? You need to really focus on building that trust. And remember, don't introduce negatives. We talk about this over and over and over. If you badmouth that company, you're probably going to lose that business or lose it for both of you, but probably just you. Trait transference is a real thing. If you're over there bad-mouthing them, they're probably going to think all the things that you said bad about that company, about your company and you. So focus on the positive, build trust, ask great questions, find out what's most important to them, and let them know in the end, and this is what I tell people, I will do more for you than what anyone else is willing to do. Okay? If I were an integrator in the industry, I am the person that I would want to deal with. It's really, really important to communicate that. Let's see here. I told a customer I could get him a quote, but forgot. How do I regain trust with my customer? Okay, that's a big whoopsie, right? If you tell someone you're going to do something and you didn't do it, the best way to deal with it is to just be direct. Let them know, I am so sorry, I forgot. This isn't standard with me, I just didn't write it down. And maybe ask them, how can I make this up to you? Or preemptively make it up to them. Bring some sort of little gift. whatever it is, something you know that they'll like, something that'll fix that. Because the truth is we all make mistakes, right? We all forget from time to time. And so being direct and honest, not giving them excuses, just being direct, let them know, I forgot, will build more trust than if you try to make an excuse. It looks like that's the end of our questions. I really appreciate all of your time. I know that time is extremely valuable. I'm excited for America to start opening up the economy and allowing more business to come. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me directly or to any of the regional sales managers at ProdataKey. They're a tremendous wealth of sales knowledge and ability. So till next time, thank you.